Hello, one and all, and welcome to Heroic Inspiration, a D&D show where we chat about D&D stuff to help you build campaigns, build characters, and just kind of find your spark, as it were. With me today, once again, is a man who's just obsessed with Zorses. It's Kevin from No Dice D&D.
I can't believe you brought that up. First of all, happy to be back. Glad we're doing this again, but thanks for watching the stream. Did you guys know that a Zorse is a zebra horse hybrid, like a mule? It exists, and they decided to put it in a New York Times crossword, and you're supposed to know that exists? That's crazy.
I
I'm
don't
glad
think
you
it's
saw that.
real. I think it's a weird joke that's being played on all of us.
Yeah, dude, honestly, with misinformation, why not? Like there could never be it. It's
This is
just AI
Zorse.
generated images. Yeah, it's a Zorse.
Oh, this is a gorse. It's a giraffe horse. It's like, yeah, sure.
Oh,
Why not?
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
cool.
That's so funny.
This is a horse. This is a whale horse. It's like, yeah, this all makes sense. This all seems very reasonable.
And these are all going into my D&D campaigns. Just every combination of animal, you know?
The
How you
trouble
doing,
with the
man?
horse is that it's just the spelling worse.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah. This is, well, it is.
Yeah,
And
it
it
is
is.
the
Everybody
worst.
knows it's worse. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. Apart from
Yeah.
this weird source thing, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, I watched it earlier and it was just like, huh.
Yeah. I looked it up and it literally looks fake. It literally looks like someone stitched the back side of a zebra and the front side of a horse and put them
100%.
together.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Low
But
effort Photoshop.
yeah, they really, I didn't sleep last night because of it, but what are you going to do? You know, like you got to just embrace it. But yeah, man, I'm excited that we're doing this again.
Yeah, me too.
And we'll see if I mentally recover from Zorse.
I don't think you ever will. I don't think it's possible,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Also, I appreciate you coming by the stream, brother. That was a good time.
No, it's good. I'm gonna move you while we're
No.
talking. Just
Am I
ever
not
so slightly.
centered?
Ever so slightly. This is where I moved the wrong thing.
Oh, shh.
Well done. Good catch.
Yeah.
You're centered now as well. That was a skill issue on my end.
Yeah. All right, there we
Often
go.
the case.
No,
Anyway, we are going to discuss something that you've just done a video on, actually. Streaming, which is advice for new DMs.
Oh yeah, it's crucial. We need to grow this this endeavor.
Yes,
you
so
know
that
what
other
I mean?
people can DM for us.
Yeah, honestly. Oh, dude, I would love that. Because yeah, you run far too many games.
We finished 2 of my campaigns in the last 3 weeks or so.
That's crazy.
It is.
I haven't played in 4 weeks. You know what I mean?
Like that's rough.
Oh, fine, dude. Our group is that way. Because we're also doing other things. Like again, this week tonight we have, instead of D&D, we're doing a Halloween party. So you know, it's like we're just filling up the other time. But yeah, there's definitely I forgot everything I'm supposed to remember. I was supposed to write these things down and I did not. Do you guys remember this? Because if you don't, guess what? This guy's name is Jeremy now. Yeah.
He sounds like Bill Burr. This is the character now. That's the only voice I'm allowed to do.
Yeah, that's right. That's so funny.
It's tough. We went back to a campaign after a few weeks, and it was like new characters. So it was only the second session, and it was like a short, like 4-session campaign.
Yeah.
And we went back, and all the players were like, "What voice was I doing for this character?" One of the players was like, "I think I was doing like a Russian accent." I was like, "Okay, cool. Like that's a good one." But the other 2 players were like,
Yeah.
I immediately introduced NPCs who they'd met before, and I was like,
Yeah, which one is it?
These ones.
Can you hear my dog barking?
I can. It's fine.
No, I can. Here, let me. If you're cool cutting this out or leaving it, it's really up to you. I'm gonna go get him.
That's fine.
And he's gonna get mellowed out.
All right, boys. Mellow out a dog. We're cutting it in. I can't cut out dog content. Like, I think that would damage my soul. Plus, there's a good reason to come next time. Like, oh, would the dog be there? Who knows? Who knows?
We're back. All right. Yeah, dude, I got to figure out how to. Well, he's a dachshund, right? So dachshunds literally will not stop barking. So I got to figure out how to get him to mellow out. Usually my wife's home, and so that makes it so he's just like happy as a clam. You know, he doesn't need anything. She's gone right now, so he's just anything he hears. I gotta murder that thing, dude.
It's like that.
Yeah. He's
the big bad evil guy. It's like it was a leaf.
Yeah, it was a leaf. It's a cat sitting in our
Yeah.
yard. Oh, that drives him crazy. The mailman, he literally is so cliche. Cats and mailman, he's ready to like take their head off, you know?
Have you
Uh,
explained to him that it's incredally trite to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah. I
chasing these
tried
things?
to. And he's like, I
Bro,
like leaning into tropes, man.
you've got to be better than this.
Yeah. That's so funny. Um, but yeah, dude, I'm glad to hear that you guys finished 2 of your far too many campaigns
Yes.
because you're making me look bad. Okay. And again, not playing in 4 weeks, like not playing in a month. And you played, how many times did you play this week?
I only played 2 times this week. No, wait.
Only 2 times.
I think it was 3. I think I'm lying.
Oh my goodness. 3 times is so much, dude.
Yeah, no, I am fully lying. No, we
Yeah.
put it twice. No. How many times did we play? I've DM'd 2 and I've played 1. There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
3 times.
3 times.
Yeah, I
That's a lot.
DM'd a game for 2 players,
Uh-huh.
which is like an ongoing thing which we jump into because the 3 of us are unhinged when it comes to D&D.
Mhm.
And they've got 2 characters that aren't in a campaign, but they really like. They have
Yeah.
like a dynamic between the 2 characters, and I was like, I'll figure out a campaign. Maybe we can do that. That's fine. And they were in a circus. They went to a
Ooh.
Fey circus.
Circus is always good.
It
It's always a good
was
setting.
the most fun I think I've had DMing, especially because it was Fey. So everything, whenever they asked what the price of something was, I would just roll a dice at random to
Mhm.
decide how
Oh,
much an
nice.
item would cost. Which means that some of the stuff they got for really cheap, and some of the stuff they got completely ripped off on.
Yeah.
So it was like 4 gold for like a pint, and then it was like it ended up being like 3 gold for a very low level magic item.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh my god.
this is obviously too good to be true. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But
That's
they were
awesome.
like they were really silly magic items I like came up with on the fly.
Mhm.
I was like, oh no, I was like, yes. The fairy was like, oh no, no, you need to say what you're looking for, and then I'll be able to find something that's sort of vaguely related to what you're looking for. It's like, oh, I want something that helps me like support my teammates, and I was like, okay, just a sec, and came back, and it came back with like 2 pom poms, and it was
That's
like the pom poms of mild inspiration, and they give like temporary health equal to the user's level once per long rest to 1
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Very low level effect. It's not going to be breaking any combat.
No, but it's sick.
But it's funny.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
I would use that. That's a great
Right?
idea. I love that. Good magic item on the spot. Do you have a
I
magic item list?
I don't. I probably should have.
That's what I think I should too. I don't have one at all. But I think it would be nice to have. But maybe part of the joy is just trying to come up with it on the spot.
Yeah, I do like coming up with ones that are specific. I also have like a rough idea of what most classes would want anyway.
Mhm.
But it does occasionally lead to things like so in the dungeon crawl we did on Tuesday that I ran,
Yeah.
the players found some haunted armor and a pot of gold mimic, and they beat that fight, and then they looked for the armor afterwards, and I gave them all just like an upgraded armor, except one of them was a sorcerer who can't wear armor. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you find braces of defense +1. And he was like, what's a braces of defense +1? And I was like, is that not the thing? So no, it's just braces of defense. So I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We got there.
Well, these are S plus. These are super good bracers, you know.
Yeah, these just like they're actually just super shiny. They're just shinier braces
Yeah,
of
yeah.
defense. That's the
Right.
only extra thing.
That's so funny.
But it's fun to do.
Dude, that's great. That sounds like a good campaign. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So you have plenty of DM advice to give to these new DMs, huh?
Yeah, don't do it. No, I do it. It's great. It's actually really easy as well.
Don't do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is super easy and also extremely difficult, and you just have to decide which gauntlet you're going to put yourself through. I feel like
it's fully
all
self-inflicted.
Yeah, 100%. It can be the easiest experience of your life where you just show up and do it, or it can be
Why
absolutely.
is my camera going out of focus? Thank you.
Oh, there you are. You're blurring away into the fog, entering the Fey realm.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Because like, again, hearing some people their first time, they're like, "Yeah, I didn't even read the book, and I just have dice, and that's how we started playing, and that's how I DM'd." And you're like, "Sweet. Did you guys have fun? Yeah, we had a blast." And then some people were like, "I spent 50 hours coming up with this one scenario that my players didn't do," and you're like, "Yeah, this is all self-inflicted, man."
Yeah.
You know.
Did your players play any of the stuff that you prepared? And then they get this far away 1,000-yard stare, and you're like, "Yeah, we've all been there."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
learn.
It's like I think it's the biggest problem is you set these expectations for yourself, right? Like you think that D&D or DMing is supposed to be this one way, and then you find out it is different than your expectation, and that's like that's like the first 10 sessions of
Yeah.
playing D&D, right?
100%.
Oh yeah.
So okay, let's start with an actual full question. So let's talk about what you need to do to DM for the first time.
Um, kind of talking about what we just talked about.
Mm,
Just do it.
just do it. Yeah.
Literally just show up. Like, if you don't even have to know the rules. If you have an idea
Yep.
of seeing something, even like you've watched a couple shorts of a Critical Role clip, then you are ready to DM. You get the gist. It's gonna
Yeah.
be rough, but that's kind of like the fun of it.
Yeah.
I think I think things you should legitimately do: learn the basic rules,
Hmm.
and you can just watch a YouTube video. Like, I guarantee there's a YouTube video out there that is just going to be able to give you the quick rundown of
Yep.
like the things to know. Um, and then I suggest getting a like for the first time, I do suggest looking up a one shot or like a module, and then you don't have to follow it through, but it teaches you the basics and pacing, and you don't know what you don't know, and like we
Yeah.
talked about, you're going to prep a lot of things that you think is what D&D is about, and that's not what D&D is about, and you're going to spend a lot of time on stuff that is not the game. So for the first time, I say use a pre-written one shot. That is like, there's a bunch of free ones out there that are great that give you a gist of something, and of course you make the changes you want to make, but it's going to teach you like, what do I care about? What are the
Mm,
parameters? What is the pacing? How much am I expected to get through? Like, especially if you're playing with new players, you're not going to get through anything at all. You're going to do one combat, and that's going to take 10 hours.
yep.
It's going to take so long. Um, and that's okay. That's what everybody's there to do.
Yep.
But yeah, so for the first one, I think do that. Because, yeah, again, I think you're going to save yourself some heartache from spending so much time on this stuff. Bobo, my goodness. I know you hate DMing, but come on, man.
He's like,
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thought is you literally just look up a rules video, have some dice,
Hmm.
and then look up a one shot, and then just go for it. You don't have to worry about it more than that. Let the players come with characters. There's pre-written ones that are out there if they
Yep.
want like a preset one. They just want to show up and play. It's just like almost every board game and card game where it's like,
Yeah.
let's just start getting into it. We're going to do a practice round.
Yep.
It's not going to be the real game, but we're all going to get the gist of like, oh, I see
Yeah.
how this game works, instead of me trying to describe it word for word, which is, board game nights where no one knows the rules are the worst. You got
Yes.
to hope that someone knows what's going on.
Yes. 100%.
So yeah, just show up and do it. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that there's this element?
No, I'm fully in the same camp. Like,
Yeah.
I think it depends on like the experience level of your players, right? Um, but like adding on to what you said, I would say that the most important thing is like just it's fine if it doesn't run smoothly. It's fine if you hack to check rules, or if you don't want to check rules, or if you mess rules up.
Yeah.
Like all of that is fine. You will continue making mistakes during your DMing, probably forever. That you will look back on and you're like, oh, I really could have done that better. Oh, I should have improved this description more interestingly. Oh, I
Mhm.
didn't give them enough chance to be creative with this interaction. Oh, I feel like I pushed them on too quick. Like you're just always going to be doing that.
Yeah.
And
Which is the
as
joy.
100%, because you can always be better, right?
Right.
So you just need to like rip the plaster off, get it done.
Hmm.
Just do a session. Once you've done a session, you're like, okay, right, you've done the first session. That was the scary one. You can now
Yeah.
do other sessions, which is the fun stuff, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think that's almost all skills is literally just start doing it, and then you're
Yeah.
gonna understand. You're gonna have such a significantly bigger wealth of knowledge to pull from to figure out what you need to get better at. If you're trying to be like, well, I should really pay attention to all these things and try to get better at it, it's like you don't even know how your
Yeah.
DM style is compared to someone else. Like
Yep.
that's why it's really hard making videos that are helpful to the masses, especially for new DMs, because you're going to watch maybe someone like me versus like someone who's a little bit more like combat oriented
Mm.
rule, and we're going to have two very different things that we find important in our games, and you're going to be focusing on these things, hearing me, and find out actually I really like combat. Most of that advice
Yep.
doesn't really apply to my game, and that's completely fine. That's great. That's like the joy of the game. So yeah, I think just get in there. You're
Yep.
gonna have just show up. It's gonna be fine. Your friends are gonna have fun, have some
Yep.
laughs. The mess ups are the best part.
Yeah.
That's literally D&D. D&D, the mess ups are the best part. Should be
Yeah.
like the thing
It should be the
underneath
best
it.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
100%. And that it's about having fun. It's a game.
yeah,
Like it can
yeah.
become something more than a game, right? Like it become like this wonderful storytelling medium and a great chance to like, explore your own personality and just have in someone else's shoes. Like it can be all of these things,
Right.
but in your first session,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's okay for it to just be a game.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you're
That's
d
fine.
yeah, this is the hand warmers, okay? We're getting used to figuring out what's going on, where the numbers are on the sheet.
Yep.
That's what the players need also.
Yes.
And yeah, I think another thing to throw in there is like it's definitely super helpful to just watch live plays.
Yeah.
If you want to see any form of structure, you're going to see like, oh, he does that there, and
Yep.
then you at least have something to emulate and to work on towards making your own thing. I mean, do
Yeah.
you suggest watching live plays as well?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot of my DMing stuff from like Dimension 20, to be perfectly honest. Like
Yeah.
watching I think that's how I learned most of D&D rules, was just watching D20, because it was just like, A, I write for a living. I refuse to read. You can't make me.
Hmm. Right.
And B, you can have it on the background while you're doing other stuff, which means that you can like passively absorb. Okay, right. So he asked for a skill check that was about investigation,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sat there writing about Magic the Gathering or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude, Dimension 20 though is like I honestly think Brendan Lee Mulligan, the DM there, I think he's phenomenal
oh,
at
he's a
taking
genius.
new
Yeah.
players. Like if especially if you're playing with new players, you should watch the first like Fantasy High
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because he's really good at taking these players who don't know D&D and streamlining the game to still make it fun.
Yep.
Um, and of course it's edited and stuff like that, but like I think it's really effective. He does a great job at taking what they're trying to do and
Yeah.
turning it into things that fit within the game and like knowing when to break the rules to
Yeah.
make it more interesting versus like sticking rigidly to the rules. And I think a lot more people should lean into knowing when to break the rules and be like, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
way cooler. So like, let's let them do it.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Like using spells in unintended ways is like,
Yeah.
if you're doing your first session and a player goes, oh, can I use fireball to light this row of torches, and
Hmm.
technically it doesn't say that anywhere on the list of the spell, maybe, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you think it makes sense, go for it.
Yeah. Sick. That's awesome.
Yeah, that sounds
Right.
amazing. Like, oh, I fire this fireball over the top of this like huge line of torches and they all erupt into flames at the same time. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh man, and yeah, like what a clever way to like solve a puzzle or something.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a
Yeah.
great decision. Yeah.
Yeah, you can use your real world common sense and
Hmm.
like overlay that onto the rules of D&D, or completely ignore the rules, as we talked about last time.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you can have fun either way. Like, and it is, I think the best moments come from when you're talking as you're using your knowledge and applying that to this in-game world and its physics, and
Hmm.
then coming up with fun solutions.
Yeah. Which is like
That's
I
like,
think advice for new DMs. Like one of the best things is you just use your common sense.
yeah,
You don't have to follow what someone's written.
no,
Like we literally what we talked about our
yeah,
last
yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Keep breaking the rules.
yeah.
It's gonna have more fun.
Yeah, just do what feels good, what's entertaining, and what you're happy with. And if you're never, I think a good tip for like new DMs is, if you're like, oh, this would be cool now, and I've
Hmm.
heard this online before as well. You're like, oh, this is cool now, but you don't want them to be able to do it every single time. You can just say that.
Yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
going to let this
Absolutely.
work this time.
Right.
I can't promise it's going to work every time, because at
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
point, as a DM, you might be like, no, I want you to figure out the actual solution for this puzzle, because like it was
Right.
fun and I had fun making it, and I think you'll all get a laugh out of it, or whatever it is, right? There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
one puzzle in one of the games, in our level 16 game that I'm playing
Hmm.
in, where the answer was any answer that a specific character came up with, because he's blessed by the god of luck. He's
Oh,
blessed by
nice.
Timora. So the whole thing was, the puzzle was completely impossible to solve because there were no clues. So it was just whatever he thought the answer would be ended up being the answer. And that is genius.
That's so funny.
So funny.
Of course, that's the time that he's like, you know what? I'm gonna let you guys solve this one.
He
He sits quiet.
fully did.
Yeah.
Fully did. So we were there for like, my character wasn't even there. I was playing as an NPC, because
Uh-huh.
it was during the middle of like a heist of Waterdeep, and I was like, my character wouldn't do this. Like, you guys are
Right.
on your own. I got control
Yeah.
of like a little 7-year-old bard.
Oh, nice.
But so the character I was playing as suggested a thing. The character who had to do the thing did the thing on his behest, and then the kid was like, "Oh, I'm a genius," even though it was actually the other character. So none of the
Oh,
characters know what the solution actually was, and it was just very funny. The whole
that's
thing
so
worked out
funny.
wonderfully. But yeah, the DM explained it afterwards. He was like, "So this was the deal," and he was like, "That is so clever,
Yeah, that's so funny.
so
I
so
love
clever."
that. Well, yeah, and also good pacing, right? Like So he's just gonna say the answer, and it's like, and that worked. And you're like,
Yeah.
what the? Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah,
Whoa. And then you're
yeah,
like, that's so lucky. Oh, I see what you've done.
yeah, yeah, right.
I'm on to you.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, so just do your first session. Do you think it's worth preparing for the first session, or do you think it's better to just like do you think it's best to
Mm,
like have a railroad in mind? I know railroading is a dirty. I disagree with the whole bad like railroading bad thing.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think sometimes you need to put your players in a cart and get them to a
yeah, yeah.
destination.
Yeah, dude, some rides are fun. Have you know been to Disney World? I mean,
Right.
maybe Disney World's not the best example. Have you been to Cedar Point? Okay, you haven't. I know you haven't because this is in Ohio, but
On a
it is a
roller coaster. Have you been on a roller coaster at
no,
Disney
no, no,
World?
no. Specifically Cedar
Oh,
Point.
okay.
Okay, the other ones suck.
All
Okay,
right.
no,
Okay. Oh,
you know, you're right. But of course, there's so much more fun on a set rails for some things, not everything,
yeah.
right? But yeah, do you think they should prep? I think this is a tough one. I think this is an individual question.
Mm.
You should prep enough that you feel comfortable.
Yes.
And again, knowing that you're gonna prep, if you're spending time prepping, you're prepping the wrong stuff. So like you do it until you feel comfortable to
Yeah.
find out that everything you did was you know, for naught.
Yeah.
But if it gets you to the point where you feel calm when you first like get into doing it, you don't feel super anxious. If you can get into that state,
Yeah.
whatever that level is, you're gonna go. If you never feel that way, like if you're like always gonna be anxious, I say just go in, you know, raw dog it,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Sometimes
don't prep at
you
all.
just gotta jump in. Hope for the
Read
best.
read through the one shot. That'd be
Yeah.
my advice. Read through the one shot, know the thing, know the encounter, like know who the what the monsters are,
Yeah.
whatever the puzzle thing is,
Yeah.
and like the like one trap, right? And then you go, okay, great, I got it.
Yeah.
And that's you should be all your prep, just reading through it and
Yeah.
then knowing those rules, and then you go into it.
Fully agree.
Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
100%. I think if you're prepping a homebrewed, uh, like one shot or campaign or first session or whatever it is, right? I think
Mhm.
it's important to have the concepts of the characters and the general direction you'd like things to go in, and
Mhm.
like who the villains are, who can help,
Yeah.
who the characters are,
Sure.
and then that's probably it. Like
Mhm.
you need to know where stuff is roughly, but you're gonna have to reflavor or rejig pretty much everything that you've come up with because the
Yeah.
players will think other stuff to you unless you're playing with a group of your clones.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
will think differently to you, and they
Wait,
will come
what?
up with weird things.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, which is actually probably also good advice to know that you're not gonna you're gonna think some solutions are so
Mm,
obvious, especially like when you are the person
yeah,
who has set up the scenario. Like the number of times I've been like, and there's this giant rock hanging from a rope from the ceiling right above the bad guy. He's right above this big, heavy, smashing rock above the bad guy. And they're like, I bet that's part of the puzzle. You know what? We probably shouldn't hit that thing at all. And you're like, what do you mean?
that
You
is
know?
trapped in
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's too obvious. Yeah, or they'll do it like that's too obvious. I
yeah,
want to lean into it. You know, like it's always it just whatever you think makes sense will never be what happens.
yep,
So get ready for that chaos element of yeah, it's not gonna play out the way you hoped.
yep.
You know, and I think you brought up a good point of like it's a good idea to have like a couple like random NPC names
Mm.
or like character ideas, but I think that's a like intermediate. That's like session
Yeah, no,
4.
you're almost
Once
definitely right. Yeah,
yeah, once you get and I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that 'cause that's definitely helpful, but like if you once you get past the pre-written, then you do these
yeah,
things, which is like step 2, which is now you go, okay, just all you do is prep a couple guys that you can place anywhere.
yep,
This is Sebastian. You know, he's a very spicy fella, and
yep,
you know what? He can be a barkeep, he can be a shop owner, he can be a random town
yep,
guard, and you just you know take
yep.
his name and personality and character description, and just put him wherever you need him. You
Yep.
know.
100%. What was your? Do you remember? Do you remember your first session that you GM'd?
Yeah, and it was bad. It was so bad. I oh, it's so many years ago too. I basically created this like this gauntlet thing where it was very much a dungeon crawl.
Mm,
And you kept on like you would go through into rooms. You like have 3 rooms in front of you, and there'd be words on top of each of the doors, right? And then you would go into the room and have to face some kind of trial. And I
Mm.
had a bunch of different trials, like maybe like 27 different trials, right?
Nice.
And so the idea was to figure out the phrase that you were supposed to go through. And if you
Oh,
guessed
that's
got the right
fun.
word, you would go through and do the
Yeah.
next thing. The problem was it was just so like I think the concept's actually not bad.
Mm.
But it was a lot of like teach part of it was like a tutorial world where I was literally trying to teach new players of like,
Yeah.
here we're going to use our our
Mm.
athletics feat to use this room. And then you do the classic thing where you're like, well, they have to make 5 athletic jumps as like, and this DC gets
Yeah.
harder and harder. And you're like, this isn't fun. This is just a random number
Yeah.
generator. You know what I mean? Like you're just like, I rolled it. Did I get it? Nope. All right, yep. Okay, now I have to do that 4 more times. I'm gonna inevitably fail, so
Yep.
I guess we do it again, and so, like, that's where it went wrong. I do like the concept of the general thing, but it was just,
Mm.
like, one of those things that I spent a lot of time and effort making this thing that I should
Yep.
that was me not understanding the pacing. I didn't give the players the other thing where they gotta be, like, they gotta do more of the role-playing element of
Yeah.
the game. This was purely just stats and numbers,
Yeah.
and I mean, there were some puzzles in there, and there was some like, how do we do a charisma thing? Do you choose to lie to this guy,
Yeah.
or like, but yeah, it did not. It was fine. Some people were like, yeah, that was good, but like they were being nice, and yeah, I wish I again had learned the pacing so that I could have set up that dungeon, made the dungeon smaller,
Mm.
so it wasn't so long, and then set up like an intro and an outro, so there was like a feeling of role play. Now we're
Mm.
in this, and then we're into like a boss fight or something,
Yeah.
and then you're done. So you have like this puzzle element in the middle, not throughout the whole thing. Do you remember yours?
It wasn't that long ago. It
Oh,
wasn't
really?
as long.
Okay.
My first proper DM session was around about this time last year.
Oh, wow. Okay, got it. So yeah, man. You've only been, well. To be fair, you've probably
I've
DM'd
speed
a
run.
ton of,
Yeah,
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 so
yeah.
many sessions.
We only have ADHD hyperfixations here.
Yeah, 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 right.
That's all I'm capable of.
Right.
Yeah. So I ran a circus troupe one shot.
Uh-huh.
The players all were part of a traveling circus.
Mhm.
I got them all to think of what act their character would be doing in the circus as well to help them
Yeah.
like figure out who the character was. One of them came up as one of them's like, I want to do a comedy act. And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, just write a couple jokes, or we can just roll for it if you don't want to do that. And then she went, oh, it'd be good if it was like a double act. And I was like, with who? Like hoping she chooses another. She's like, I don't know, maybe just an NPC. And I'm like, cool, I have to write jokes now, don't I?
Yeah, yeah.
And what we ended up doing was I wrote a bunch of really, really bad D&D pun jokes.
Uh-huh. Nice.
And all she had to say was yes and. And then one of the
Uh-huh.
jokes at the end, the punchline was that she said yes, sand. That was the whole punchline of like the whole bit. It went on. It didn't go up too long. It was just like 2 to 3 minutes of me as a goblin going like no no no, like telling these terrible jokes and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
laughing at myself in character. It was a whole thing. But yeah, so
Yeah.
we did the performances. They did a little PvP battle to begin with, just as
Ooh,
like part of
nice.
the like show.
Yeah.
And
That's
got
fun.
fully healed afterwards. I was like, you guys can go wild, because I thought it'd be good because I had a couple of new players in it,
Mhm.
and I was like, this is a good chance for you to test out your characters in like a very low impact environment, right? You
Right.
can do whatever you want. If you die, you didn't die because it's a
Mhm.
mock battle. That's the whole point, magic.
Right.
And then they went outside, rescued some villagers, and that was that really.
Oh, nice.
We actually got it done in the 3 hour period I wanted to get it done in. I think we
Yeah.
went 10 minutes over,
Ooh.
which is like miraculous. As you
Yeah.
said, if you do anything in a one shot, it inevitably turns into like 2 to 3 sessions.
Every one shot I've done has taken 3 sessions. It's just, and they're long sessions. And part of that's on my group for being easily distracted, but yeah, every single one you're like, we're still doing this? Well, I guess I see you guys next Friday. This thing that was supposed to be a throwaway.
Should I
Yeah.
go? Are you guys just going to keep RPing for the next 4 hours?
Yeah,
Like-
yeah.
And they're like, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
RPing it into like, dude, did you know Zorses are a thing? And I'm like, yeah. And then we're back into
Oh no, not again.
yeah, right. But that's great, man. That sounds like a fun session.
It was. I
Was
could
it-
have run it better, obviously.
Oh yeah, of course.
But like, I did it. And yeah, there was a big fight as well. I put way too many combatants in the fight.
Oh,
yeah.
dude. I'm so glad you said that.
This
This
is
is
good
my
news.
advice. The action economy you don't recognize. You're like, you know what we'll do? We'll just have 10 goblins. They'll have to fight 10 goblins. And then you get to fighting as 10 goblins. You go, roll.
It's the
Okay, that's 1
worst.
damage. Okay, he takes his turn.
Or they just
Roll.
all
And you're like,
miss.
yeah, and it's just forever. It just the combat is then guaranteed to be like 4 hours of just like, okay, we take our
Yeah.
turn. Sorry, this is gonna be a minute. I hope you go get coffee. I'll be back. I'll tell you if you're dead. Like
Wait, what was that hit modifier?
yeah, which is gonna happen. So my advice is minimize
Yes.
how long
Yes.
the how many enemies there are. You want to make it so there's less enemies or equal enemies. I think
Yes, 100%.
don't do it too many. Oh, dude, I had one of the things I had is one of the meta rooms in that first one I did was they fought jackals.
Mm.
Okay. And anytime someone said the word jackal, another jackal would appear.
Oh, that's so much fun. But that's
Yeah.
horrible as a DM to have to run
Horrible.
that.
Well, it just took forever because they're like, these jackals are all over the place. I was like, another jackal pops up. And they're like, and it took them forever to figure out, and they couldn't kill him. And they kept saying jackal. And so, like, I want to say they fought maybe like 30 jackals. They were meant to be easy to kill, like, no problem. But they said it so much,
That's so
and I'm like,
good.
and I was on it with the timer. I wasn't like,
Yeah.
like, another jackal appears. So, like, interrupting their sentence. I'm not letting you get them out. I'm like, do you understand? Please.
As you say the word jackal, another jackal appears.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
Staring at them.
Yeah, finally, like, oh,
Please.
and again, that's not great to run maybe for a first group
Mm.
who's like doesn't understand the meta narrative. Like, what a funny little idea, but to throw that in,
That's great.
yeah.
But yeah, as a first session, when your players are just like, it's weird that more jackals keep popping up every time we say the word jackal. Maybe
Like,
it's just
I
a
don't
coincidence.
understand this room. Yeah. What are we doing? There's so many.
That's
Because I'm thinking about it like a video game where like it's hard coded.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what happens when you start playing D&D. You're thinking about it from a hard coded perspective of like, this is pre-written and it established, and I don't really have that much autonomy on the game. And then you realize, oh, I have almost the entire autonomy on the game.
You are the game engine.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's one of those things that played on their preconceived notions in a bad way,
Yeah.
So it's very collaborative.
I fully agree. Few combatants. Literally, if you've got a party of 4, have 4 enemies tops. It doesn't matter if it's the first session. It does not matter if they absolutely steamroll that fight. They're gonna feel cool. That's the most important thing about the first session. You don't need to be like, how can I balance the CR rating? It's like, just don't do it. You can't.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You can't.
It doesn't matter how experienced you are.
Dude, I got asked that question a lot. It's like, how do what's the correct way to scale balancing with a number of players? So I was like, there's no real answer other than do it enough to figure out what feels right based off how your party plays.
Which is not a helpful answer, right?
No, but it literally just, again, goes back to our first advice. Just do it. You're going to be like, oh, I have all min-maxers. I'm going to have to really upscale my enemies.
Exactly.
Everybody's disguised self. All they did was cast all their level spells to disguise self as jokes. And you're like, so they have no more spells left? Okay, so maybe I should really bring that combat down.
Need to fight a dog. Having a bad day. Like, that's the combat.
Yeah, and it's just a conversation. It's a bad encounter.
Yeah, I mean, I did a slightly off topic in the dungeon call we did. It's the Dark Souls one I'm running.
Yeah.
They were like this close to a checkpoint, and also we were like 10 minutes away from the end of the session, and they walked in on 4 elementals.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was gonna make you fight these, but I've just very nearly killed you and depleted all of your resources. So I'm gonna give you a riddle instead.
And that's so funny.
So they all walked up and they were like, one of us, I was like, you hear them all talk at the same time. It's like, one of us doesn't belong here, but we can't figure out who. And then one of the players was like, and I already had in my mind what the answer was. In my mind, it was water because of the band Earth, Wind, Fire. And I kept making really stupid jokes about the song titles.
Okay. That's so funny.
And one of the players went, well, we've not seen water here, but we've seen Earth, Wind, and Fire, right? And I was like, what's your answer? Like water. I was like, and it works, and they all disappear, and the door unlocks, and conveniently this is the end of the session.
Perfect. You made it. That's
if
so
they'd have guessed
funny.
run, we'd have started the fight and then we'd have finished it next time. Like, that's how that would have worked.
Oh, that would have been good.
But they guessed right.
So. That's good. So they made it through. That's so funny.
Oh, yeah, it's yeah. You have to be able to think in your feet, but that's definitely like that's experience. Don't
You,
worry about thinking in your feet in your first session.
no, no, yeah. And I mean, again, that's what we talked about. You're always going to get better. Like I still, again, I've been playing for a very, very, very long time, and I still feel like I can get way, way better.
You
And the
see the
things just become
quality of
easier.
DMs out there, right? Like, there's just so many
Yeah,
good DMs.
yeah, yeah. And there's so many different ways to be good. Like, there's so many like niches. Everybody has their own superpower as a DM. So like,
Yeah,
but then you can get good at like other things that other people are good at as your like secondary. So yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, like you said, you're always gonna get better. But in your first session, you can try those things and be like, yeah, maybe that worked, maybe it
yeah.
didn't. But you get to try it. But in the beginning, you don't have to do
No,
that. You know.
you can
Hmm.
run a basic. You go to a town. There are goblins attacking. You beat
Hmm.
up the goblins. That's it. That can be the
Yeah.
session, and that's
y-
absolutely fine as your first session.
Yeah. And then
But
you just make them. I think the real way to pad out getting your first DM is set up scenarios where the players have to answer questions about their like characters.
mm,
So like you can get kind of force the players into role play, which I
yeah,
think is really good. And then it gives them a lot of time to like try role playing. So you're like, I think questions of like, this is your first time in this small town. Where's your character from, and how do they feel about this
yeah,
place? And then you have everybody like
yeah,
describe, like do a little bit more of a meta narrative, and then be like, okay, you guys sit down at the table. Do you guys want to talk? And give moments to let the players just run the game, and then you just get to sit back and enjoy. That's the real trick of being a great DM is being able to be like, I don't have anything in my mind prepared,
yeah,
so I need to think of something. So I'm going to set up a scenario where you guys end up just running the game and I get to sit on the side and come up with like I'm quickly scribbling,
yeah. That's honestly great advice as well. Like, you don't
Mhm.
need the session to run at 100% efficiency. Efficiency is not the aim of D&D
No. Mhm.
at any
Not at
point.
all.
Not in
Mhm.
combat, not in anything. Because we talked about this before. If combat was efficient, all of the bad guys would be attacking the weakest character. That would
Yeah,
be the
right.
most efficient way to do it. That's not what it's about. It's
No.
about big moments and like it's about the
Yeah.
narrative. Because of that, the best thing you can do, the irony is one of the best things you can do in your first session as a DM is to set the scene and then just shut up for like 15 minutes while your
Yeah.
players start to get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I that was one of the things I had on my stream, was like, player centric is a better game than
Mm,
DM centric.
yeah.
And if you feel like you have to talk every other line, like you say something and someone else says something, and then you have to speak again, I think you're missing out on the opportunity that a lot of the time you can sit back way
Mm,
more than you are, because you're going to talk plenty. You are forced into it no
so
matter what.
much.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a part of every interaction. Like I think it's really good to set up
Mm,
moments where you get to just sit back, and
yeah.
the player's going to have more fun because then they feel more in control, and then they get to control the game a little bit more, um, and they get more of a voice. And I think a lot of people like to be able to do that and express who their character is, which
Yeah.
is like the fun part from the DM or from the player's perspective, right?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And
Hmm.
it's even if you've got a group who are new and like are feeling a little uncomfortable with the RP side of things, which a lot
Hmm.
of people are to begin with, because unless you're homegrown theater kid. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are like, I don't want to do a silly voice in front of my friends. That feels weird, and it does feel weird, but you get used to
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you start to enjoy it probably a bit too much, and then you test all
Mhm.
those voices out on your kids. It's the standard progression. Um,
Yeah, yeah. The exponential chart of you going up. That's so funny. You hit the point. Yeah. I don't
interesting.
even think this is your voice. I'm starting to think you've been doing a voice this entire time,
Look,
Jason.
you're right. I'm sorry. I am actually. My name's Nathaniel. I'm from somewhere vaguely in the U.S.
Yeah.
If I give you a
Somewhere.
state, you'll be like, no, you're not from there. That's how this
Yeah.
accent is.
Yeah, it's close. You're just amalgamation. You've been moving
Somewhere
around a lot. Yeah.
vaguely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Committing to it.
I can't believe I've been caught.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, taking like you say, setting up these like questions about how does your character feel about this is a really good way to make your players think about their characters as more than just a stat sheet,
Yeah.
which is important. And then if you do that, and then you like have an NPC go over and be like, oh, what do you want to eat or something? And then they
Hmm.
have to think about what their characters want to eat, and then they can think about why their characters want to eat that, and then
Right.
they can go. You can have your like bar person go away and get the food while they all talk amongst themselves about the food they like or anything else. It could be literally anything, but yeah, just
Yeah.
shutting up.
Oh yeah,
It's
shutting
so
up is so
important.
good. Also, I do love playing the waiter or waitress or whatever that comes up and with people who don't want to role play,
Yeah.
and you just basically turn it into like an uncomfortable situation where it's like you guys are being really weird to this waiter. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of people have that innate thing in them where they don't want to do like they want
Yeah.
to be like, you know, nice. So all
Yeah.
of a sudden they're like
Yeah.
there's like this deep connection of my character feels uncomfortable and I personally feel uncomfortable. I have to fix this
We have
somehow.
to
How
tip so much at the end of
yeah,
this.
yeah, right. I think that's also a good. This is, I think, maybe more of an intermediate tip, but like if you can get your players and their characters to feel the same feeling
Mm,
at the same time, it's going to make it easier for them to engage with the
yeah.
story. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah, again, and awkwardness is a strong drug amongst the D&D community. Okay, we're locked into that emotion pretty pretty well. You know, so you get them
Yeah.
to feel that like, oh man, my character knows this feeling. I've
Oh
I've
no.
I've role played this plenty.
I sat there sweating. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
there we go. Got you. We're in. Everyone's locked in now. They're just
Yeah,
crying.
everybody's locked in. Yeah, yeah. Let's get to combat. This is going to be way less or way more relaxing.
Yeah.
These social interactions
Exactly.
are tough. Yeah, you know.
It depends on your group. Like,
Well, of course,
obviously.
I'm
But yeah, no,
my
I don't disagree.
my group is very I would say very extroverted compared to a lot of D&D groups.
Yeah, so's mine. I feel
Hmm.
like maybe D&D groups just aren't as introverted as everyone thinks.
I guess I don't know. I've also played with a lot of people who are, so I don't know. It's a mix. Y- I'm sure it. I don't know. I guess maybe you're right because like you have to be pretty social to want to play a game that's pretend talking with your friends. So you
Yeah.
have to be able to put yourself out there. But I don't know, dude. It's got to be. There's got to be a. We're we still definitely have the nerd DNA deep in our
I'm a big old
veins.
nerd, but like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's too late for me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was never saving
I'm
me.
just slowly trying to infect my kids. That's the most important thing I can do as a
Yeah,
nerd who has kids. It's just like,
yeah.
Pikachu?
What do you think?
Pikachu?
Yeah,
And then the
you
kids are
give
like, like,
you're giving them squishmallows. You're really
yeah,
locking them in.
100%.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's not subtle.
That's so fun. I like that. Man, we have to grow our community, which is, I
Also,
mean, we've already taken over.
if I obliterate their social skills, I don't have to worry about them having boyfriends or girlfriends or partners, right?
That is a great idea. There's going to be no repercussions to that literally at all. I like your thinking.
This is a win-win.
Yeah, yeah.
Kids,
Yeah,
if you're watching this and this is in like 10 years' time, I obviously didn't do this.
yeah. That's
Please.
why I was so awkward. Dad.
Yep. And again, I did admit that on camera.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling awkward now.
Yeah, that's good. Now we've locked into your role playing
now we're in,
feeling.
right, we're in. Do you think a first session has to have a combat?
Yes. Let me have to is not the right word, but
Should, I guess.
I think to encapsulate, I think what you're trying to do is give them a nice charcuterie board of experiences to figure out what the feelings are that they like. Because really, what you're trying to do as a DM, I think, in the long term, is figure out what your players want and what you like to do, and
Yeah.
then gear your games in the direction of that. So the first session, when you don't know, like whenever I play with new people, I try to make encounters that have some role play, some puzzles, some mystery, some combat, some like sneaking. Like I try to do like the different elements
Yeah.
of gameplay and make sure that they get an element of each of these things so that they can be like, oh, my favorite part was.
Yeah.
And you hear that, and then your next session, you go, okay, well, then maybe we lean a little bit more towards this.
Yeah.
And then you find out, like, I actually don't care about this part. This part was boring.
Yeah.
And then you find out as a DM, things that you thought would work turn out to be maybe that was too much, and I have to do that in a smaller dose. And so, yeah, I think you should do combat because to a lot of people, D&D is combat.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's the thing that they think is like the crux of the game. Because I think a lot of people are not ready to start off and just doing a full role play top to bottom. Like there's going to be people like, what's the point? What are we trying to do here? You know, which is, I think, not the ideal situation. I think a lot of people would take away that it's like, there's a lot of good things you can do just role playing. But in the beginning, I don't think you have that clear goal. And I think having a goal helps, and combat is for sure a goal.
Yeah,
We spent all this time making these numbers on a piece of paper. I better
exactly.
use those
Yeah,
numbers,
yeah, yeah,
you know?
100%. I spent 3 hours choosing spells. If I don't get to cast Fireball on someone, they will all choose Fireball.
Yeah, yeah, they're gonna choose fireball. You have
Fireball
to.
will inevitably end up in your campaign. There's nothing you
Yeah,
can do about it.
right. It's dude, it is the Superman of heroes. Like it is like
Yeah,
it's just the crux of what D&D is. It's like this is our shining thing. We put on the front of the poster
yeah.
like fireball.
If you
Everybody
took
likes it.
Fireball away, I think D&D would just crumble. Like that would
Yeah,
be
it
it.
would. Oh, dude, if they took it out of the new player's handbook,
Can you imagine?
they wouldn't have sold any copies. I literally think you get maybe 10 copies
The
sold,
next
you know?
day, just like Hasbro closed down the entire
Yeah, yeah.
Hasbro.
Yeah,
Oh
and
no.
I think they even said that they literally made Fireball better than all the other spells because just people liked it, and it is their, like, calling card, you know?
It's a fun spell.
Oh, yeah, it does so much damage, it's
It
great.
does so much that you get to roll so many dice, and it's so
Y
satisfying. Whether
yeah,
that's physical or digital, it's like even on digital, if you're playing I Tailspire, like I've said before, you get
mhm.
to like digitally pick up the dice and then shake them and then throw
Ooh,
them
that's
and stuff,
fun.
and it's still just like yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's so good. Throwing a bunch of dice is so fun,
yeah.
and then especially if you're hitting multiple people, you're like, and yeah, I hit 3 people, also one of them was my teammate, haha. You know, like, it feels good.
Sorry, or not. You know, sometimes you're not
I
sad about hitting your teammates. Don't do
That's what I'm
PvP in your
saying.
first session though. Like that. Don't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, don't well, yeah. That's gonna happen too. There's gonna again, a lot of it is problem solving and figuring out to
Yeah,
be like, "Hey, maybe we don't do these things."
yeah,
You know?
yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you think you should ask for a lot of skill checks in the first session?
Um, I don't know.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's a good idea to try out a couple of them,
Yeah.
like perception, stealth, maybe acrobatics. A
Mhm.
lot of them are so wishy-washy as to when I know there are rules for them. I am aware there are rules for D&D.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
it is something of a bit.
Yeah.
But I do think that a lot of them are it's harder to grasp what a survival check is versus what yeah, like medicine. Medicine is
Yeah,
pretty
right.
obvious, right? Like you're checking how healthy this person is or
Yeah.
yeah.
It's I feel like it's one of those things that I don't have a clear indication. It depends on like what you're running. Because I think you don't, as a DM, don't have to worry about that. If you don't know all
No.
the skills, then in that sense, no, you don't have to
Yeah.
do a bunch. But if you feel like, you know what, I feel like medicine would be relevant here, then you just
Yeah.
say give a medicine check. Because it's
Yeah.
like it's only purely how you are prepared for the session or like the scenario that's
Yeah.
happening. To be fair, I mean, you're gonna use mainly like 6 or 7 stats, and then most of the other ones don't get touched.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not doing a lot of performance, and maybe that's on me because I'm using like persuasion instead of like persuasion or deception instead of
Yeah.
performance. Which maybe that's wrong. Maybe I should be using performance, or like I'm not using a lot of like history. Well, I am actually using a lot more history checks and stuff because I've started to implement that into my games. It's been
Right.
a decision to try and be like, well,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, when
yeah.
you know the history, you know, I'm trying to add more lore, add more like arcana knowledge. But yeah, my point is there's going to be stuff on there that you're just not going to touch
Yeah.
because you're just not going to think about implementing it, or it's just going to fall into another category.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
perception in investigation.
Yeah, they're.
They're
It's
so
literally
close.
yeah. Do you perceive that it's there, or are you trying to like think through? You know,
Yeah.
you just make a call. No one's going to care. The players are going to be like, actually, and if they say, could I actually make that investigation check? You go, yeah, that seems
Sure.
reasonable. Why not? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I'll usually say to players, I'll be like, you can choose like history or religion, whichever one you're strongest in.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
want them to fail the things I want to give them information. I've written
Yeah.
information down, right? Like, and especially in your first session, like you want it, if you've written stuff, you've prepped for 50 hours for this.
Yeah.
You need to make it slightly easier for them to succeed because sometimes the dice are just not going to help.
No, which is a thing I do whenever I have like a history check or a history of religion.
Mm,
I'll literally go in and say, okay, give me a die roll, and I'm basically going to give them the base amount of
yeah,
information regardless. It's just whether they get these like extra little
spicy
tidbits.
bits. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and how confident they feel in it.
yeah.
Like, and I think honestly that plays a lot into being like you're uncertain, you have a vague memory, and just saying that makes the
That's
players be
so
like, I
much
don't know if
fun.
this information is solid enough to go off of, whereas
Yeah.
you're like, for a fact it's this, and it gives them that like
It's the
confidence when
same
they're making it.
information, but how you deliver it. That's
Correct.
genius.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like just adding that little bit of information goes from being you're like the same way we are in real life. It's like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know I think a source exists, but I don't feel confident in it. Versus like, dude, I've seen 3 sources yesterday. Like you're gonna have 2 different things. And so by having that information, you're either me not understanding that sources exist and not believing anybody, or they have them at your zoo. You know what I mean? And so you've seen it. It's a fact. But that impacts how they make their decisions and role play, right?
Yeah.
So maybe sometimes I do that, especially like if you have something that prevents the story from going forward, like they
Yes.
have to find this clue to do the
Have to
next
give it
thing,
to them.
you can't prevent it from a random
Yeah,
roll,
yeah, yeah.
because what is the follow up? You know what I mean? What have you set yourself up for? It's like, well, you didn't find it, but you guys know something's there.
I guess the campaign's
Roll.
over now.
Yeah, yeah, like yeah, yeah. If the option is you have to roll again to get it right,
Yeah.
then don't do it that
Don't make
way.
it a roll. Like
Yeah,
have an NPC walk in and be like, "Oh, it's this thing." Like
yeah, yeah.
do what you need to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you can gate, yeah, like you say, like the more in-depth stuff, or like
Yeah,
enemy weaknesses or whatever it is behind a higher roll. But if you need to give them information about where something is, like you can't not give them that information.
yeah. You have to give them the information, and a lot of it is like what I'll do if they get the higher ones is they get tidbits of like a hint
Mm.
in the right direction. So like they got something that kind of might point to something, and it's a very vague hints. And if they get like really well, and they do multiple. Now they have groups of hints that can lean towards a piece of information. If they don't get the role, all they're getting is the information. They're
Yeah.
just not getting that little extra help that comes with like their character's really clever and knows how to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think there's plenty of ways to involve skill checks that still lets you have information and still makes it feel like the players found it, but
Yeah.
doesn't screw you over where
Yeah.
you're like, please roll a 15 or we are over.
I need you to succeed on this information. Usually, if I've done something silly along those lines, I'm like, "Oh, you have advantage because I need you
Good,
to
good.
succeed on this." That's
Yeah,
usually
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'll say as well. Like, I need you to do better than that.
Yeah. That's so funny. The lean in, you just need to do it. And I think honestly, like that style is really good because you said you do like 6 session
Mm.
things. Yeah, you're like, this is a contained story.
Yeah.
This makes sense that you need this. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I like it.
If it's more freeform and open world, you can. I mean, you could theoretically not give them the information then, and then like literally have like a Skyrim courier run up to them with the letter that has the information on it or whatever, right? You can
Yeah.
find other ways.
Uh-huh.
But
That's
don't
so
do that.
fun.
Don't add Skyrim couriers in your first session. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can. I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, the other advice, don't listen to us. If you have a better idea and you think you know something, go for it. Because
Yeah.
then either work out and great, you got it, or it won't, and now you know for a fact,
Yeah.
and that's
It's all
it. So like,
learning.
yeah, yeah. So don't worry. Don't listen to us if you
Don't
don't like
listen
any
to
of
us. Yeah.
this. That's my main advice for everything. Take what you like, leave the rest. I don't know anything. Just do what makes you happy.
Give it a couple weeks. I'll have changed my opinion anyway.
Yeah, yeah, right, yeah, yeah,
I'll run a session where I'm like, I'm an idiot.
yeah,
I've
yeah,
learned
yeah,
new things entirely about all of this stuff.
yeah. Absolutely.
If someone is planning a full campaign,
Hmm.
like after their first session,
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
how long do you think you think you should be like, I'm running a 300 session campaign for my first campaign?
I think. Okay, my advice is it doesn't matter, and here's why. Okay, I think you can do the 300 campaign because either you got lucky, you found out you loved it, your players are locked in, everybody's locked in, they want to do this, and it works out,
Mm.
or the more likely scenario is that last 6 sessions, it doesn't work out. Someone bails. The session's not really working how
Yep.
you planned. It falls through. You guys stop playing for a little bit, and then people have kind of lost interest, and you lost interest in the campaign you worked on. You spent the energy making it. You had a good time learning through that, and then you go, let's try again. And then you make a new one,
Yep.
and then you set whatever that campaign is. So I guess I think I hear doing a shorter one makes more sense. But I think just lean into what gets you most excited. So if you are into like the super long arc,
Mm.
large world thing, go for it. As long as you can understand to pace yourself on planning, because you'll get burnt out if you try to over prep on all of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, a small one is completely reasonable. To be fair, I don't think I've ever run a short campaign. I've just run a bunch of long campaigns that haven't lasted that long. You know what I mean? Like, you just sooner or later, just people get burnt out, and which is normal.
Yeah.
Like, we want to play other games, we want to do other things, uh, and then yeah, you're just gonna be bad at stuff and like do world breaking things that the players are gonna be like, well, who cares? You
Yeah.
know, like, and then you'll start again.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. Do you suggest? I'm assuming you suggest the shorter campaigns, right?
I'd I feel like shorter campaigns or a one shot is a better shout, but I don't disagree. Like if you're gonna if you can do a longer campaign, I think that, and I think this is veering into like intermediate advice again. But
Hmm.
what we do in my group is we're lucky. We have 4 out of the 5 of us have DMs. Like
Hmm.
will DM. That's
Yeah,
an obnoxiously high percentage of people that are willing to run games, and that's
yeah.
not the norm. But what we tend to do is that we'll have arcs. So we'll run like Act 1 basically
Hmm.
of a longer like 3-year campaign. We'll do that for a few months, and then someone else will do their Act 3, and then someone will do their
Yeah,
like I'll run like we'll do a 10 session campaign or something. Because that
yeah.
way you avoid some of the burnout of being like stuck in a world, even though it's really nice inhabiting a character and being that character for a long period of time, and I do think that's a lot of fun.
Hmm.
There's so many classes to try out and like characters to
Yeah,
try and be and like character concepts that you'll come up with,
right.
and not getting to play those is rough. So I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea to, if you do want to like run a huge campaign, that's perfectly fine, but like start with like a 10 session, have them beat the, the the lowest level big bad,
Hmm.
and then do a couple of one shots or get someone else to try DMing for a few
Yeah.
weeks, and then you can come back to it. Like I think that's a good way to do it. Like
Yeah.
plan your big thing in chunks.
Right. Which is, I mean, to be fair, very reasonable. 'Cause I feel like most long campaigns are
Yeah.
just short arcs
Yeah.
back to back to back with maybe like one overarching arc that is just like you don't really touch it in every arc,
Yeah.
right? Every small piece. You're like, we saw this big bad guy. I don't know what he's about. And then you just do all these little things in between,
Yeah.
and then you start to notice like, oh, I'm hearing more about the big bad guy. So, but what you can do is allow your players to have like what we've done is, and it sounds like you've done this as well, where you have players in a campaign in an existing world, and then they show up in another one when you
Yeah.
start with new
Yeah.
players.
Yeah.
And and yeah, you're right. Variety is a spice of life, especially early on. You want to kind of figure out your play style. You don't want to commit to something for years and never
Yeah.
get to try things. But yeah, I think that makes sense. That's a very valid point of it forces you into not locking into a character or a play style
Yeah.
that you're not ready to lock into for a very long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. That being said, like as a DM, you should always be willing to let your players change their class at the drop of a hat. I personally think.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can
Oh
you
yeah.
can write a story reason for it. Like that's satisfying to do. This fighter's
Yeah.
become a wizard because they, lost an arm and they had to take up reading or
Yeah.
something. Like you can, make what you want of it. And I
We
think
had a
that's fine.
player we had a player in our campaign recently, this long one, who he just was like, I don't know if I want to be this guy anymore.
Mm,
And so after a fight where he was like supposed to be this like strong soldier,
mm,
and he just got trounced, he literally just like, what am I doing? Like in character,
amazing.
I can't keep doing this. And he literally just walked off into the sunset. Like, and he like we're gonna have him send a letter to the group like explaining his like reasoning, and then we have the new guy join. Um,
So good.
but he was ready to try something new, and so to make it so it was cohesive in the story, he
Mm,
literally has a story reason, and now he exists in the campaign, right?
yeah.
Like we can still have him come back and do
Yeah.
something. He still has like connections to the players, and he's talked about maybe doing like he'll write letters every like maybe like 10 sessions or
That's
something.
so
He'll
much
write a
fun.
letter, and then like so it's like I've been doing this. I hope you guys are well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gives him the opportunity to do something different than
Yeah.
what he's doing because yeah, he was just tired of he realized it's one of those things where he realized I'm not playing the guy I want to play. Now, to be
Yeah.
fair, he just made the same class, maybe a different subclass,
Yeah.
but he's still a fighter. He's just a different kind of guy, and the
Yeah.
role playing is more fleshed out. And I think he spent more time prepping who the guy was. So when he
Yeah.
got into the game, he wasn't like, "Who am I? and then he's slowly leaning towards like, things that would have made sense to his character but weren't fun for him to play.
Yeah, which happens. Sometimes your character
Yeah.
develops into someone you're like, yeah, they're the worst, and I don't want to be them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Which is because you're playing it well. Dude, it happens all the time. Also, like sometimes you pick a voice that you're like, I think I have this down, and then you don't. Example perfectly. I'm falling into that mistake right now. Like we're doing our Baldur's Gate run on my stream, and I'm playing as Billy Burr Baggins. Right, we're playing a halfling Bill Burr, and it's very funny. Problem is, my Bill Burr impression is garbage. I can say ladies. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. But the thing is, I can't say. I don't know if you've ever had this happen where you come up with the concept, you've got like a couple key-in phrases and you can say some sentences, but then when you try to get it to like more general speaking of conveying an idea that actually like works in the capacity and being like free form in your thoughts, it's so restrictive to say what you actually want to say that you're like not saying anything interesting because you're only like, I can only say these 6 words. I have to say pack. I have to say haba, you know what I mean? Like I can only say something with an R in it, so it sounds like I'm doing the accent. And I'm falling into that now. And so like, yeah, you don't want to do that because then it restricts like the creativity of being able to communicate fully. So yeah, like I get it's okay to dump a character that you had this idea or just adjust their voice.
Just change them.
Yeah, and I think it's always helpful to come up with an in-game reason. Just justify it. We were doing storytelling already, so just justify it in a storytelling way, and then everybody goes like, "Yeah, that makes sense," and we agree with that. So now it's just part of the world, and that's just something that happens, you know?
It can be contrived.
Yeah. You ate a mushroom, and all of a sudden you're like, "What is magic mushroom?" Now you're
strange. A bit of lengthened my vocal cords.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and all of a sudden I'm taller. I'm a human.
And that's fine. It's magic. You can just, as a DM,
you can do.
This is the best advice I can give.
Mm-hmm.
You can just write it off as being magic.
Oh, always. Yeah. If you work with your players and the players ever want to change, all you have to do is say, literally, just make it magic. Like but just work with me so I can make it feel like it's part of the world. Because we all agree, magic just lets you do anything. You know, like. There's no limitations. No. You just need more powerful magic. And this mushroom was crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Really opened that third eye for you.
Absolutely wild, what this mushroom did. And it was like, when you were looking at it, it was like pearlescent and like glimmering, which was weird. And when you picked it up, it didn't feel like a mushroom. It felt like kind of rough, like sandpaper. But you ate it anyway because it smelled nice.
It smelled nice. Tasted bad.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like, this is how you can tell that we both DM a lot.
Yeah, yeah, you locked in with
instantly. Like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's build this mushroom.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do an episode on this, on finding a voice for characters, because I think it's a really interesting topic.
Yeah. Sure.
But
that'd be fun.
Revisit that. Is there any more advice that you want to give to beginner DMs?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the beginner advice I have. The main takeaways, right? I talked about this in my stream, which is take a deep breath, relax. It's going to be okay. We're here to have fun. It's not stressful. You're not going up on it. It is in front of your friends, and that can be scary, but it's not the same as like, you're not going to play in front of a concert in front of 1 million people. You're not doing stand up. You guys are in this collaboratively. It's a group effort. So just as, vulnerable you are being, the players are being that as well. So everybody at the table is there to have a good time. So deep breath. Everybody's here. Everybody's nice. Everybody's super nice. And then, yeah, like we talked about, don't worry about the rules. We talked about that in our last podcast, but talking about it here, don't worry about the rules. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to know anything. And then play how you want to play and figure out what your players want. And so I guess I didn't harp on it enough, but communication. Communicate outside of the game about the game, and that's going to give you the most clear indications of how you're supposed to do it going forward, right? Like it's going to give you the moments of you guys actually hate puzzles. That's crazy, because the next session I planned like 4 puzzles. I'm gonna have to change that, right? Like, but by you just telling me,
put you all in a Rubik's Cube. This is a real issue.
Yeah, right. And here's a real Rubik's Cube, and I hope you guys can solve it, because if not, we're not moving forward. You know what I mean? Like, it's like one of those things.
The campaign would be over. I cannot.
Yeah, it'd be
Rubik's Cube. You cannot make me.
yeah, it'd just be done. So yeah, I think communicating is going to give you so much. Like when I did a session 0, I've been playing with these people for a very long time. We did a session 0, and I was like asking a lot of basic questions,
Yeah.
but it just gave people an opportunity to say all the thoughts they've had, especially now that they've accumulated so much more
Yeah.
experience and the things they liked and things they wanted out of the game. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have such a wealth of information that I wouldn't have gone in this direction, but now I can because you guys just told me all of this, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, communicate. I think that's really all you're doing in the beginning is just getting comfortable, having
Yeah.
fun, and then communicating to figure out what the next games are going to look like. I mean, any last pieces of advice you got?
I was going to say do a session 0, but I do think that session 0s are hard to do when you're starting out as a DM.
Yeah, I think session 0 is we do our pre-written.
Yeah.
Everybody just does our like
Yeah.
this is how the game works, and then you do a session 0, finding out what
Yeah.
people want to do.
I would
Because I think that's right.
Yeah, I would check in with your players to make sure there's nothing that they don't want to see 100%. Like check in, be like,
Mhm.
are there any themes that you don't want to see?
Oh
Is
yeah,
there any
the trigger
kind of
warnings.
yeah, like always check in with your players and that stuff, and that is
Mhm.
integral.
Yeah,
You don't want to upset your friends, and
yeah, yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
they've got stuff that you don't realize they've got because it's deep seated and like, but it's
Yeah,
better ask
right. Yeah,
if you know.
absolutely.
Yeah, usually if you know your group, like I don't know, it's my group of all idiots. So I'm like, is there
Mhm.
anything we can't do? And they're like, no. And then we ran an evil campaign where they were the worst human
Yeah,
beings in existence,
right.
and it went wonderfully. But I wouldn't have done that with another group if they were like, we're not into any of this stuff that you're about to put us through, because
Right.
obviously don't do that. But yeah, I think just check that there's nothing your players are going to be properly revolted and, and uncomfortable around.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, just do it.
Yeah, just get in there. Just get in there, man. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fun, and then you're gonna know so much more. Like you
Yes.
think you know what you need to work on and what the way things are gonna go, and then you play once and you're like, oh, I was wrong. I'm so wrong. So just get
Learn
in there.
so much every session of playing and DMing. Like you learn so much about the game.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn. You can learn the basics from like watching an actual play, and
Mhm.
then you'll learn 300 times that the first time you play.
Yeah,
Like you
absolutely.
just need the basics. You don't need anything complex.
That's perfect. You just need the basics.
You do.
And you just need the feeling of it. You need the reps, just like trying to do a funny voice and finding out, oh, that felt how'd that feel? How do I commit to this? And then getting used to committing to it. And
Yeah.
then yeah, it's good.
Yeah. The first time you do like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in front
right.
of your friends, and you're like, yeah, that was weird.
And yeah, that felt bizarre. But that's the fun part. And then the other thing is, this is a side note for players. Don't don't try and do an accent unless you are flawless at it. Try to do like you talked about a vocal
Yep.
like shift.
Yep. Up,
You know what I mean? A
down,
cadence change
cadence.
and
Yeah.
a tonal pitch
Yep.
shift so that you can still be someone who's not you.
Yep.
But dude, you think you have accents down. You do not. I promise you.
Accents are so hard. There's
Yeah,
so
they're
many
very
of them.
difficult, especially when you're trying to be like on it. Unless you want to go and not care about the accent being somewhat close and it's just
Yeah.
whatever, like your
Which
mix
is
of
fine.
Australian, Irish, and
Which is
British all
completely
sudden
fine if
together.
that's your vibe, right? Like that's
Yeah,
perfectly
then you're good to
fine.
go. And then
Yeah.
go for that.
If you do on commitment, talking in an accent that isn't your own and discussing the best way to infiltrate a hobgoblin camp at night while trying to save a princess whose name is like 13 syllables is not
Yeah.
something you're ready for.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all, dude. It's so bad.
I can't do that
you're
in my actual accent a lot of the time, let alone when I'm
yeah,
trying to borrow someone else's.
yeah. Because you're just gonna get lost somewhere in the middle and be like, "Who am I? What is happening?" Like it just always happens.
Always happens. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's it. How did we? Oh, finger guns. Finger guns. We landed
Oh,
on
finger guns. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
ready?
All right. Well, thanks for having me, man. It was
Oh,
a
it's
good
been a
time. We'll
pleasure. Always
we'll we'll
is.
do it again soon.
100%. I'll be. Well, I'm going to talk to you after this, and then I'll ask you some more in a second. So, ready?
Great. All right. I literally blew the gun before I shot. Ah!